Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy.
Ooh, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Gin College Podcast. I'm your host, John J. II, here with Cody Almasy, our producer, college sports insider, and my right-hand man. Happy to be with him. Cody, how are we doing today, buddy?
Doing good, doing great. See my wife
Hey, Marie.
sighing to the background, you know. she's got stuff to do too. Lots of moving pieces in motion here at the Almasy household before Thanksgiving festivities commence this week. So all hands on deck. She was trying to stay out of the frame, bless her heart, but
Hey,
tough.
we're in the mood. It is Thanksgiving time. We're in the mood of Thanksgiving, and I'm the kind of guy, I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of guy, the Christmas season doesn't start till Thanksgiving's over, till the turkey's been cut, and and then all the Christmas movies come on, National Lampoon, Christmas Vacation, you got Home Alone, you got A Christmas Story. There's a lot of Christmas movies that start coming on after that. Polar Express. I heard they're making a Polar Express production in person where Tom Hanks is going to be the conductor. I don't know if you saw that or not, but that's kind of cool. But that's just kind of who I am. I guess, are you already in the Christmas season, or do you got to wait till Thanksgiving's over?
Yeah, I'm one of those people that you hear don't put it out till Thanksgiving, the tree that is. And I ask the question, why not put it out a little early, get in the spirit. Thanksgiving, Christmas, it's all just one big season of family, food, thankfulness. And I'm just ready to get into that spirit as early as can be. So for me, it's as soon as you put the trick-or-treating bags away, let's get out the stockings and let's start eating some peppermint candies because I'm ready to
go. Get the candy canes out, he says. Get the candy canes out.
Yes, sir. Although I don't really like the colors of the candy canes. I won't eat them this week.
Oh, no. especially this time of year. Especially this time of year, right now, this week. I mean, this is the week. Cody saw me, and I'm not a Michigan fan, or I'm not an Ohio State fan by any means, but I wanted to participate in the fun. And we'll just take. I'm going to talk about that later. Let's just handle business right now. We got a big show here ahead of us, and we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, a lot of topics for you guys here tonight on the GCP. Really excited to do it. Cody, what do we got first on the lineup?
Yeah, first things first, we're going to cover our bases in the hardwood arena, talk about some college hoops, some big matchups this week for the holiday weekend. It's college basketball's big first bang before, we get into conference action, kind of a tease for what to expect once we get into the new year when it comes to college hoops. And we got a big one tonight, top 5 matchup between number 1 Kansas 4-0 and number 4 Marquette. The Golden Eagles are also 4-0, and Kansas is a 4.5 point favorite. That's Hunter Dickinson, former Michigan Wolverine, leading the Jayhawks. He has transitioned well onto his new team. He's leading the Jayhawks in points with about 24 points per game and catching about 12 boards off the glass a game as well. So leading them in rebounding, and he's got Bill Self and the Jayhawks feeling good. They survived a scare from Kentucky a couple matchups ago. It's always going to be a blue blood battle. Number 1 Kansas held on, and they're going to be tested again tonight by the Golden Eagles. I don't really know which side I'm on here. I'm ready for a good game, maybe the over to hit. I think they're going to get pushed in a holiday type of game away from home, and it's going to be different for them. And I think maybe we'll see them face some adversity. I think they might survive it, but I think we'll see the Jayhawks tested tonight.
Yeah, the Jayhawks were tested against the Kentucky Wildcats, and I honestly turned that game off because it was kind of on a little bit late, and I had to get to bed and need my beauty sleep. So I turned the game off. I saw them going back and forth. They suffered a serious deficit towards the middle half of the game. They actually ended the half with a Hunter Dickinson three-pointer, which was huge for the Jayhawks, and they came back and wound up winning that game. And that was a statement win for Kansas. They had to win that game to retain their number 1 position in the AP polls, and that was a very impressive win. And you can kind of say, it might be hard to say, especially for you, maybe as a Michigan fan, maybe not, but to see Hunter Dickinson thrive at Kansas and really see him grow into his skin, grow into his athletic ability at Kansas. I've seen him do that, and I've seen him kind of plateau at Michigan, where he needed to find something new. He needed a new program, maybe a refresher, to find that extra leg. And I think that he found that, and he's only going to find it continually, I think, going further into the season. So we'll see what happens with him, but he's looking good, man.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, kind of needs a change of scenery. Not too bitter about it just because for the last year and a half, I was on the fence about Hunter Dickinson because I seen him taking nights off. And I think, maybe there was some coaching issues, something development wise with some of the other players on his team that prevented him from reaching his full capabilities after he plateaued. But, you've seen glimpses his freshman year, his sophomore year, and it just seemed like he didn't want to go and get that. But with a change of scenery, you kind of get self-inspired to go put in that extra work and to say, hey, I made the right decision. So there's a little extra motivation for him now to prove that he made the right choice. He's also, playing to get back into the NBA draft talks because coming out of his freshman year, he was a hot commodity, and it's kind of cooled off since then. So he's got a lot of stuff fueling his fire right now, and not too bitter about it. I hope he does better than he did here in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, he's got a lot to prove, and this is his year to do it. He has experience in the college basketball scene, and he knows his way around the basketball court at the college level. So this is his year. This is his year to do that and to build his draft status. But yeah, college basketball is in full swing. Big one with Kansas and Marquette, and that's gonna be a tester. We know Marquette's got a strong team. They're gonna give Kansas some trouble. And it's going to be a hell of a matchup. What other matchups are we looking at?
Another, the Lions, they're synonymous with playing football on Thanksgiving. I feel like your Spartans have started to become synonymous with playing basketball on Thanksgiving.
True.
Usually playing on the hardwood, I can turn on the Sparty game, and it is no difference this year. Another big one, Arizona, Michigan State, the Acusure Classic, 4 p.m. on Turkey Day. Tell me what you think about that.
I'm happy with their performance against Alcorn State and against Butler. Their performance looked a lot better. They're looking more of a strong unit. And that's what they need to find is that upper echelon of basketball, which usually takes them a few games to work their way into. And that's expected with any Tom Izzo team, regardless of how prominent they are or how happy they are feeling going into the season. They're always going to expect great things. They're always going to expect high hopes and prosperity early in the season. But it usually takes them a little bit of time to get into that. They got to grow into themselves and grow into their team, especially their team chemistry. They've struggled with that in the past. Just to get the job done and to close out close games. We've noticed that has been a problem. We've seen it be a problem in early games against Tennessee and even against Duke. Duke really took that game, and they were the better team. They're going to be a threat going down the stretch and into March. But I think Michigan State's in a good spot. They got a great team, and they're building with what they have. And they're in the same boat as Kansas, I would say. If they're going to do it, this is their year to do it. And Kansas has proved that in the past. When it's their time to shine, they do that. Similar to Michigan football, really. This is their year to do it. They have the tools. They have the players. They have no excuses. A little bit of scandal here and there for the Michigan Wolverines in football. But listen, everyone's going to deal with that. You're going to deal with adversity. How are you going to overcome that is the question. And if you don't have to face any big hurdles early on or even in the late stages of the season, regardless basketball or football, then you're going to find yourself in a good spot come the end of the season. So it's all about playing for position and finding that going into the late stage of the season. Basketball is a great thing, especially because you can lose games early and you don't really lose position. All you got to do is make the tournament. If you do that and you have a decent seed, then usually you're in a good position to go the distance and go far. So that's where Michigan State's at. They're going to be tested against Arizona on Thanksgiving on Turkey Day, but we're pulling for them. It's going to be a hell of a fight.
Yeah, and Michigan State, like some other teams, it's a little bit of a in-season tournament style. Lots of different little challenges, tournaments, tip-off games, if you will. So some of the better matchups of the weekend are to be determined because you're going to have a little subpar playing games like the Battle for Atlantis. You got UNC and Alabama and Arkansas, that is, in the brackets, but kind of, early in the week, it's going to be some lower level matchups. So look forward for the weekend for some of these high profile early college basketball top 25 matchups to kind of take place and form. But we will keep the conversation on Michigan State, but transition into football as it is a big, big week. But before we get into the big boys, we'll talk about some off the field business. And your Spartans are still hashing out who's going to be calling plays, who's going to be the head guy for you going forward. What are the newest developments regarding MSU's head coaching vacancy?
Yeah, so Jimbo Fisher has came into the fold. He has came into the fold after being vacated at Texas A&M. There are multiple teams looking at him to arrive at a new university, at a new job. One of those being the Michigan State Spartans. Harlan Barnett is at the helm and getting a couple big wins, winning the spittoon against Indiana, and that was a hell of a win. Probably, that probably was a hold there at the end. I'm not going to talk too much about it. The announcers are saying that was a good call. Regardless, they got the dub. They got the late touchdown to get that spittoon in their hands and their possession. So I'm not complaining. Harlan Barnett's on a 2-game win streak. They're feeling good as the Michigan State Spartans. But Jimbo Fisher might be looking elsewhere as well. The UCLA Bruins coming into a new conference next year. They might be willing to part ways with Chip Kelly. So you never know. Jimbo Fisher could find himself with some Bruins attire on coming next season. But also another team, Mississippi State and the Bulldogs, just fired their head coach, Zach Arnett, last week. Interim coach Greg Knox has been calling the shots over there in Mississippi State for the Bulldogs. Jimbo Fisher might be able to take a jaunt over there as well. He has SEC experience. So he knows his way around an SEC team. He knows his way around the conference. So there's a lot of different landing spots for Jimbo Fisher. I am almost 100% certain he will land in one of those three locations. I'm pulling for him to come to Michigan State. Seems like the rumors of Urban Meyer arriving in East Lansing wearing the green and white have somewhat dwindled to below 1%, where last week, 2 weeks ago, it was above 80%, which we were trying to speak it into existence. MSU Twitter was on fire. They were up in arms saying, hey, we want Urban to come this way, raise the flag. We were seeing images all over the place. Even GSN put out an image with Urban Meyer with a Sparty crest right there on his collar, the Spartan S, that is. And so that's kind of dwindled. I think it's all hype, and it's really kind of building up to all hype. But Jimbo Fisher is, he's looking for employment, and he's not done yet. He's not done yet. So I think he's going to land in one of these three spots.
Yeah, I think Jimbo Fisher would be a great haul for you guys over there in EL. It'd be a good spot, a good fit for him as well. I think it'd be in his best interest maybe to take a break from the SEC for a minute. Just was a little hot and heavy. It seemed like from there at Texas A&M, got handed a bag and then did worse than his predecessor, Mr. Kevin Sumlin. So I know I've seen that graphic making its way around a lot. And MSU is somewhere you guys can build a new identity together and kind of rebrand yourself and either take MSU to the next level, which I know that's what you want to happen, or use it to catapult his way back into, another job where you're bringing in a top 5 recruiting class every year, like you were at Texas A&M, but maybe this time he lands somewhere where he can capitalize on those recruiting classes and not really, really fall short of. I mean, if you look around the schools that finish where Texas A&M does in recruiting, that's Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, and they're losing 1 or 2 games a year. And you look at Texas A&M, and they're always ranked really, really high because of the recruiting class in Jimbo Fisher. And then just we're never talking about him this time of the year. So I think MSU would be a good rebuilding spot for him. But yeah, I think in the coaching carousel in general, there's going to be a lot of shuffling around. UCLA, Duke, Texas A&M job is going to be very highly sought after. But those guys down there, it's like a cult following down there in Texas A&M, and you got to be the right kind of guy to make that fit. I know they really wanted our guy in Detroit, Dan Campbell, but he shut those rumors down pretty quick. That's where he played college football, if any of our viewers don't know. So they thought, right, they might be able to pull something. It's the Detroit Lions, can get him away, but it's still the NFL to college football. And the Detroit Lions are 8-2, baby, and Texas A&M they're kind of looking for answers. So he's going to stay here. Motor City Dan is going to stay where
he's happy where he's at. He's happy where he's at, especially to hint on that big game, a big win against the Chicago Bears at home, going into Thanksgiving week against the Packers at home too. I mean, they're feeling good. Dan Campbell's very happy with where he's at. But in regards to Jimbo Fisher, I don't think he can avoid, and this is a good not avoid, he can't avoid finding himself in a super conference in 2024. That's just a given. And a super conference being, and I think that speaks for itself, either the Big Ten or the SEC. So he's going to find himself employed in 2024. I don't think that's a worry for him and his family. But there's a lot of positions open. The coaching carousel is going to be wide open here going into the dying embers once the college football playoff rankings become finalized going into December, mid-December. We're going to see a lot of shifting take place as we have in previous years. So I don't think Jimbo Fisher's too worried right now.
No, I don't think he is either. And one more name that kind of was circulated for Texas A&M, Lane Kiffin. He's always somebody that's trying to get pulled, trying to get enticed. I don't know. He's kind of like a hit for hire kind of guy. He just goes where the money is, tries to change the culture real quick, gets it changed, and then kind of like fizzles out and then moves on. But I think he called the ROTC at Texas A&M a joke, and you can't do that because, like I said, the Aggies are a cult following. Texas football is something serious, and just a little comment like that's enough to get you blacklisted from coaching any of those college teams. But let's move on to some some now implications, some college football games that are left to be played and that matter in the big picture moving forward, because it is a huge rivalry weekend in college football, or week it is, as it's kind of opened up with Thanksgiving and forth. And we got action on Tuesdays and Wednesdays now, so it's pretty much football every day of the week. So big rivalry week, we will call it. And starts on Thursday night with the Eagle Bowl, or the Egg Bowl, I should say, between Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Ole Miss still in the playoff conversation, and they're number 12, so a little bit outside looking in. But if it's next year, they're in that 12th spot, and they're playing in December. So we still got to think about that kind of stuff. And we're just talking about Lane Kiffin. This seems like it's going to be a little bit of an easier Egg Bowl for him than maybe years past. Mississippi State is down, and the Land Sharks, the Rebels, are 10-point favorites on Turkey Day, over and under at 55.5, and usually comes down to a wild play at the end. You think that happens again this year in the Egg Bowl?
So when you talk about rivalries, and we talked about earlier pre-show how they somewhat staggered the rivalry weeks this year, and every year they do it, and they have to, because if they don't, then you got teams that are just not supposed to play each other, and you just can't overload it for ratings reasons. You got to stagger it into at least two different weeks. But for this game, I think Ole Miss gets the job done. I think it's somewhat of a I don't know if they cover the 10. That's still up for debate. Mississippi State, they still have a solid team. They're dealing with some coaching dilemmas, as we previously mentioned, with their interim coach, Greg Knox, in there after Zach Arnett has been released. But they're still a solid team. They still have a lot of promise. So they're going to have their hands full with Ole Miss, but they're going to get the job that they deserve to have. And I'm not saying they're going to get the job done, but they might have an ability. They might have an open window to cover in this game. So I'd keep your eyes on this one. I'd stay away from that -10 if you're a bettor. But I think Ole Miss, they're still powering forward. They're not going to ease off the gas for this game by any means, but they're somewhat focused on next year. And by all means, this shifts the conversation if we're in a 12-team format situation. They are full gas to the all hands on deck. They're going pedal to the metal if this is a 12-team format. So you bring up a good point there. So I'm just kind of worried about them covering. This over-under is also questionable. I think you're going to be looking at a dogfight. I think I'm going to take the over here, believe it or not. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. So whether Ole Miss covers or not, I think that's still the jury's still out on that one. But I feel good about where Ole Miss is at. They got a solid team to build off of going into 24. So they're feeling good where they're at.
Definitely. And yeah, with, they're out of the conversation for the SEC title game. Alabama's got it locked up. Probably going to be Alabama, Georgia. It might already be locked in, but without that motivation to play for, do they cover the 10? I think it's something to stay away from. I think that's a good
Definitely.
sniff there, my friend. Moving on to our next rivalry, the battle for the Platypus Trophy, Oregon State at Oregon. The naming for the trophy, if you can imagine, the Oregon State Beavers and the Oregon Ducks. Platypus, kind of a duck beaver hybrid. So some creative guy in the marketing team came up with the Platypus Trophy, and I think it's a thing of beauty. I love some of the names of these trophies, these cups, these showdowns, these battles, and it just adds to what I love about college football, the tradition and the festivities of it. But this one should be a good one. You got DJ Uyunglele versus Bo Nix in the Ducks. Dan Lanning is on record telling Mateo Uyunglele, hit your brother, in reference to Oregon State's quarterback, DJ Uyunglele. And, we love that here on the Gin College Podcast, because that just embodies what these rivalry weeks are in college football. And throw everything out the window, throw your familial relationships, throw anything that you hold near and dear to you when it comes to rivalry week, because brothers, it's like the Civil War out there, brothers fighting brothers, and a lot of passion on the field. As much as I'd like the Beavs to provide some chaos, I think that Oregon, Bo Nix, and Dan Lanning are just rolling. They're in just full send mode and are eyes on the prize, ready for the Pac-12 championship, which looks to be a rematch of Oregon and Washington. Came down to the finish in their matchup earlier in the year, and kind of is the reason why Washington is in the college football playoff and Oregon is on the outside looking in. But fast forward to a couple weeks, as long as Oregon takes care of business and Washington takes care of business, then that's going to be a huge game, and I think the Ducks will probably be favored in it in the rematch. So a lot of what ifs, but a lot of excitement and implications around a couple of these games. What are you excited for about the Platypus Trophy Friday night, Oregon State versus Oregon?
So we got to go back. We got to rewind it back to last week. Oregon State at home against Washington. And we've seen the struggles. We've seen the struggles with Washington and their ability to stop DJ Youngale and this Oregon State offense. And just seeing those question marks really, it just really solidifies the fact that that number 4 spot in the college football playoff is wide open. It's wide open. Washington could lose any week, and they're on the chopping block, in my opinion, winning a narrow one, 22-20 in an away contest. And thank God they did, because I had them in a parlay money line, and I had a feeling that was going to be a close game. Now, granted, you're dealing with a different team with Oregon. You're dealing with a different rivalry. There's a lot at stake here. I'm going to go on the record saying I want Oregon State to cover this game, the 13.5. I got them covering this game. I think I'm going to take the over as well, just because I like the rivalry aspects of everything, the rivalry weeks that we get to experience as college football fans. And you see a lot of points scored usually in these rivalry games, especially these in-state rivalries, which are huge. So, and you got the brother-on-brother rivalry going on too, on top of everything else, on top of the in-state rivalry. So I think you gotta appreciate that. You gotta appreciate the Dan Lanning, comments. It's all a lot of fun. It's all a lot of fun to watch and to unfold. And maybe we'll even get to see a good hit on DJ from his brother Mateo. And it's cool to see it happen. It's cool to see the coaches embody that, because they know what it's like. And I know what it's like playing against my brother on Thanksgiving. And I've already released the press release that says that I am questionable going into it. I'm dealing with a patellar tendon strain right now, so we've been putting a lot of ice on it, and we've been trying to stretch it out and doing everything we can to be healthy on Turkey Day. We got some backyard football action going on. Do it every year, full contact, tackle, cleats, everything. So we're looking forward to being healthy for Thursday. But the brother rivalry, I know that more than anybody else, and it's something that I hold close, near and dear to myself. So to see it happen and to see it be embodied at the Division I level is a good sight to see. It's a breath of fresh air for me. So give me Oregon State to cover the 13.5, and I can see the spread changing a little bit going into the weekend.
I like it. Next up on deck, we have the Iron Bowl between Alabama Crimson Tide and the Auburn Tigers. Always a good one. Alabama is usually the better team, but Auburn finds a way, no matter what kind of season they've had, to give them all they got. Even when Bryce Young was out there looking like he did go on to win the Heisman, but Auburn, made him basically earn it a couple of years ago. And so this game is always one to watch closely. Throw out the spread, throw out the over-under. It just means more when it comes to this. Although Auburn coming off a lopsided loss to New Mexico State, a team, that they pay pretty big money to come in. It's usually an off week for them. You got some other teams playing FCS opponents, and you drop one to New Mexico State, and it is a little bit of a turnover rebuilding phase for Auburn, but like I said, when it comes to the Iron Bowl, you got to throw that kind of stuff out. You fast forward 10 years ago, I think, to the year. And I think it was the kick six, 100 yard kick return. Auburn shocks Alabama, and those are the kind of finishes you look for in the Iron Bowl. And yeah, Alabama though, on the other hand, they got a lot to play for right now, a lot of motivation. Early loss to Texas kind of pushed them out of the conversation. New quarterback Jaden Milroe didn't look to have full control of the offense, and people were asking if Nick Saban wanted to retire. And now here we are, week 12, and they are about to go to the SEC championship as long as they take care of business and play against Georgia and have a chance, to be in the conversation. If they hand Georgia their only loss, they're sitting there with one loss. How can you keep them out? And I seen a thing today on ESPN of a chaos scenario, and that was one of the components to complete and utter chaos. And I can see it happening. Georgia, Carson Beck, it would be a Mizzou Georgia kind of matchup, and anything could happen. I kind of am welcoming it. I'd love to see the college football playoff committee have their hands full the last year that they can only pick 4 teams.
Yeah, give them some hell. Give them some hell. Give that committee some hell because they need it. They need it. Usually it's been a shoe-in. It's been a shoe-in situation for Alabama to be in the conversation. Now they're working their way back into it. They're climbing the mountain. They got to do this. And to see them fight adversity, take an early loss to Texas, and to be in the position that they are in, you see a lot of potential for openings. You see a potential. I said that number 4 spot where Washington's at. They could leave real easily. Push Florida State out with a loss. They can be down into the 10th spot real easy, or at least at the 8th spot where Alabama is right now. Then you got Michigan, Ohio State this weekend, which we're going to talk about here shortly. If they take down Georgia, then where do you put Georgia? So there's a lot of movement that's still possible here. That you're taking the 8th spot. The 8th spot is not out of the conversation. That's got to get you a little bit excited, and that's got to make the college football playoff committee shake in their boots just a little bit because they are kind of scrambling. They're scrambling right now before the games even take place, before the Iron Bowl takes place. They're scrambling. Obviously, with an Auburn win, that makes their jobs a little bit easier. But the dominoes are starting to fall. The dominoes are starting to fall. We're going to see movement automatically with the Michigan-Ohio State game, regardless of the outcome. Washington is in trouble. They are dealing with some trouble right now on the defensive side of the ball. And then if Georgia and Alabama in the SEC championship happens, then you got a whole new set of dilemmas to deal with if you're the committee. So this really opens up the conversation. It makes the 8th spot not out of the conversation going into late November, early December, which throws up a lot of question marks for projections and analysts making projections. So I'm excited for this game. If Alabama gets the job done, it's going to make them have a tougher job already, regardless. There's still dominoes that are yet to fall, and that won't fall for a little bit of time here, at least until the conference championships take place. But there's a lot of movement potential here. Nobody is safe. None of these teams that are in the top 4 right now are solidified. Florida State is dealing with some trouble with Jordan Travis being out, and they've already dropped in the odds to win it all to, I believe, 2,500 from 800 after the injury. So there's a lot to still take place. We knew this was going to happen. Maybe we didn't know it was going to happen at this magnitude, at this level, at this type of intensity that we're dealing with right now. The potentials, the chaos scenarios are coming into focus. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited for it, and I want chaos to happen.
Yes, we welcome all the chaos here on the GCP, and yeah, we'll just move right on along here. FSU, you just mentioned them dealing with a little bit of chaos themselves. What you don't want to see happen: Jordan Travis goes down with an apparent injury that anybody who was watching just knew it was one of those ones, kind of gruesome and made you shudder when you seen it, and just the part of the game that it's there, it's always there, it's lurking, and you got to deal with it. But you just hate to see it, especially when your team is cooking. You're 10-0, number 4 in the college football playoff, and you're playing North Alabama, and it should just be a week off almost, and you find yourself down 13 early, and you got to kind of overexert yourself. And I'm not saying that had anything to do with it, but Jordan Travis sustains that injury, and like you said, just the injury alone. I mean, you start the game shaky against an FCS opponent. That will take that into consideration as well. But the injury to your starting quarterback was enough for the College Football Playoff Committee to put Washington over you into the rankings. And now you are on the outside looking in, and without your guy, JT, and his college career is allegedly done. So our thoughts are with JT, his family, the ones around him. Hopefully he can have a successful career and, make a transition to the NFL, recover from this injury. Hopefully, he's got some NIL. We know he does. He's got his own little brand he's launched. But we just hope, he this isn't too detrimental for his future. And we wish the best for Jordan Travis. And I guess, what are your takeaways just from the committee off that alone, moving Washington ahead of Florida State into that 4th spot? You were talking about how unsafe number 4 is. How do you think about the committee's move tonight?
I think it's a valid move. I think they're preparing for the tough decisions that are to come with the further movement that is inevitable. So Tate Rodemaker Jr. has taken over for Jordan Travis at the quarterback position for Florida State with a win. Big win over North Alabama. Still wasn't enough. Still pushed them out of the conversation because you don't have your quarterback. You don't have Jordan Travis in the backfield, which that's a huge detriment right there. You're dealing with that. Prayers up, like we said, to Jordan Travis. Nobody likes to witness any type of injury like that, especially a leg injury to a quarterback. It is tough to watch. It gives you throwbacks, especially for the old heads, to the Joe Theismann injuries. So it's not a good sight to see. Even the Dak Prescott injury. So there's a lot of uncertainty there, and that just really goes to show it can happen to anybody. But this really solidifies the uncertainty with the number 4 spot. Who is going to retain that 4th spot? There's a lot of teams fighting for that, and there's even going to be teams fighting for the 3 and the 2 spot here in the next week or so, with the conference championships looming. But I think that it's a valid move from the committee. I think it had to be made. They can't leave Florida State in there with Washington still being undefeated, getting a narrow win against Oregon State, and it's just a move that they have to make. It's a precursor to what is to come. It's the calm before the storm, a move they had to make to allow Florida State to potentially, if they win out, if they do what they got to do, win the ACC championship, then they can somehow squeeze their way back into that 4 spot, maybe even a 3 spot, given, barring what happens here in the next couple weeks. But I think it's a good move from the committee. They're preparing for the weeks ahead and for the hard work that they have coming in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, and if I'm a Rodemaker, you know who I'm calling up? Mr. Cardale Jones, baby, from the Buckeyes when they went through their quarterback struggles, because originally that was Braxton Miller's team, and JT Barrett, the second string, takes over. And then late in the season, JT goes down, and it's Cardale Jones. And he steps up, and he gets the job done and gets the Buckeyes the natty. And
that's true.
That's who I'm calling. If I'm Rodemaker, I'm like, hey man, what did you do to get prepared to take over this team? I know he's been putting himself in position all year through practice and that kind of stuff, just being underneath JT. And he had some moments last year when he stepped up and took care of business for him. But I'm calling Cardale Jones, picking his brain, because that's basically was his MO, coming in at this moment, the final hour, and managing the game. You don't come in and do too much. Just, get Keon Coleman the ball, get your playmakers the ball, let your defense take care of you, and just take care of business. Cancel out the outside noise and see what you guys can do.
Definitely. That's a great reference too. And it happened in a similar point of the season as it is here with the Cardale Jones situation coming in and winning the Natty, really making a statement for that guy, that third string guy. Once a third string guy, now a first string. You never know when your number is going to be called. His number was called. He rose to the occasion and got the job done for his team, for his program, and for himself. So that's what they're expecting out of Tate Rodemaker Jr. It's a lot to ask for. Your number has been called. What are you going to do with that opportunity? You've been pushed out of the 4 spot. how are you going to fight your way back into it with the tools that you still have? Like you said, Keon Coleman is still healthy. He's still at your disposal to use at the wide receiver position. You still have tools. You still have the abilities to get there. You can do it. You can get the job done. So people are rooting for him. They're pulling for him. Obviously, he's got a lot on his plate, a lot to prepare for in the coming weeks. But it's basically a test. Are you going to rise to the occasion, or are you going to crumble under the pressure?
Yeah, and this game against Florida on Saturday will be a nice little warm up for him. You're still favorited, but you have to go into Tallahassee, into the swamp. So I think it's a good little pressure situation for him to see if he's got what it takes. So we're rooting for him over here, and we will continue to watch those 4 coveted spots. Let's get to the biggest rivalry game on deck for this weekend, the one you've all been waiting for, the one I've been waiting for since the game ended last year, so he can beat him for a 3rd time straight. It's the game. Ask anybody around college football, just casual fans, just fans who love the game, not of a specific team, and this is the rivalry. It's the game. I've been told don't even compare other rivalries to it because they just don't ante up. And it says a lot that it was so lopsided in Ohio State's favor that it's still that way, and people look at it that way. And man, there's more riding on the game this year than any game I can remember in my short 28 years on this planet. So my anxieties, blood pressure at an all-time high. But believe it or not, if I had to pick a fan base to be right now, I'm picking Michigan because we're already getting all the shit. No matter if we win or lose, we're going to be cheaters. But if you're Ryan Day, if you lose, you lost to our assistant coach. You didn't lose to Jim Harbaugh. You lost to Sharon Moore. And if you beat us, you didn't beat Jim Harbaugh. You beat Sharon Moore. And Ryan Day will still be 1-2 against Michigan. That's just my short little anecdote about that, about which fan base kind of has it where the pressure is. But I mean, there's no lack of pressure here in Ann Arbor because if we lose, the last 2 years are invalidated because we had CS, aka Connor Stallions, the sign stealer, and basically the Ohio State Buckeye faithful have already vacated those wins in their mind. But I'm telling you what, you get both sides of stories because you hear that Ohio State knew that we were stealing signs, so they switched up their signs. And if that's the case, what happened in the second half? Because we pulled away. We were down 20-17, and we came out and absolutely ran the table. And I just want everybody out there who says it was all signs just to put it right up, dude, because you got to execute on the field and you got to complete the passes. You got to stop the run and you got to contain Marvin Harrison. And those are things that have been done the last 2 years. And no low-level staffer on the sidelines is going to be the main reason, the reason you beat Ohio State. And I'm willing to admit, we got to meet in the middle. It helped them a lot. It helped them a little bit. It helped them in some ways, over the last couple of years. But it wasn't the only reason that they've been so successful. So we got to meet in the middle a little bit. And a good way to kind of shut everybody up for a little bit would be for Michigan to take care of business this weekend, especially with them being the favorites. First time they're favorited in the last couple of years, and it's without their guy, Jim Harbaugh, on the sidelines. That's my biggest concern about this whole game. I guess I'll kind of throw it to you for a minute, give myself a minute to settle back down and think about things rationally as I'm starting to get nervous thinking about Saturday in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, you can hear the passion in your voice. It's appreciated. You can see that you're a true Michigan fan. I'm gonna be the first one to say, repping the green and white. I got the Spartan hat on. I got the what do I got here? I got the shirt I wore at the desk when I used to work at the dorms. Shout out East Neighborhood. And I'm gonna be the first to say it. It's not, and this isn't an asterisk season for Michigan. If they go on to win it all and they go on to win the championship, then that is a win. And there should be no asterisk included because of sign stealing, because of Connor Stallions. Listen, that, like you said, you mentioned it perfectly, Cody, and I'll validate that, having a non-subjective opinion. It's not just the sign stealing. It doesn't come down to just the sign stealing. Even if that was alleged, if it happened illegally, if it violated guidelines from the NCAA, whatever, what have you. You got to go out there and you got to you get the job done. You got to get the plays. You got to get the ball to the receiver. You got to get the ball through the end zone, and that's the basis of it. Even if you did, I'm going to say this again just to clarify for the sign stealing people. If you are sign stealing, not only do you have to steal the signs, but you also have to apply that information in real time to be able to apply it in the game and to be able to utilize it to your advantage. So that in and of itself, even if you gave every opponent you had your signs, it's still going to be a fair game because they're not going to be able to catch on in real time. They're not going to be able to have that insider knowledge that you as a team have using those signs. So I think that we're looking at a serious game here. I don't think there's any asterisks need to be included. I did talk to a lot of Michigan fans over and throughout the week that not having Jim Harbaugh on the sidelines is a big concern. Just because you don't have that guy on your sidelines with the khaki pants and the headset on and the big dip in his lip, it's just having that now on the sidelines is a sad thing. And I've went on the record saying Jim Harbaugh is one of my favorite coaches, if not my most favorite coach in college football, because I think he embodies the university, embodies the job. He deserves the job. He's played the role. He's played quarterback at the university, played for the program, knows the Big Ten, and he's just a Michigan guy. He's a Wolverine guy. It's who he is. So to not have him on the sidelines, that does hurt Michigan fans and even hurts the rivalry a little bit. But I don't think there's any asterisks included. And there's going to be asterisks thrown in Ohio State's direction if they do win, just because he's not going to have the satisfaction. Ryan Day's not going to have the satisfaction because he didn't beat Jim Harbaugh. Maybe he beat Michigan, and maybe they're going to continue on, but he didn't beat Jim Harbaugh. So it's not going to be as sweet for him if they win in Ann Arbor. So you're looking at the spread, -3 going favoring Michigan, over under 46.5. That means that at least Vegas is thinking these defenses are going to be doing some work. I think we're going to have a hell of a game. Weather's going to be shitty. Like you mentioned, Cody, Ohio State historically does not play good in the shitty weather. It's going to be cold. We're dealing with some cold weather here. Might even have some snow here come tomorrow. So there's a lot of question marks to be thrown at this game, and I think Michigan's on fire coming off a big win against Maryland, maybe a little bit of a questionable win, maybe some question marks there. I guess let me ask you that. Is there any question marks from a Michigan fans' perspective, looking back this past week, seeing the points allowed from a Maryland team? Are we worried about allowing more points than we expected or than you expected going into Ohio State, even if you're playing at home and you have all your tools that are healthy?
Yeah, last year, same exact situation, same exact week. Michigan, that is coming off the 19-17 win as seconds ticked off. The final seconds ticked off the clock. They had to kick a field goal as time was expiring, as Blake Corum also went down to injury in that game. And the Michigan faithful, the media, everybody, really had a lot of question marks going to Columbus and being able to beat Ohio State for the second time in a row. And hey, my biggest concern is not having Jim Harbaugh on the sidelines. He doesn't wear the khakis anymore, but he wears athletic pants and he wears cleats and he plays catch with JJ before the game. He's in there communicating, interacting with the players, and that kind of thing. It matters. It's part of the routine. It has been for JJ for his whole time at Michigan. And I really think that it doesn't seem like it would, but that little pregame ritual, it does a lot for JJ to interact with his coach that way, who used to do it, as you said, played for the university. That's my biggest concern. I'm not worried about, the slow offense against Penn State or against Maryland or allowing more points. That's expected. Tualia Tagovailoa is a veteran QB with good wide receivers, and Maryland offense, they were really good all year long until they got into conference play. But at home, they were always good. They always put up fights at home. They put up 17 on Ohio State in Columbus. So, I knew the Terps were going to give us some trouble. It's a look-ahead game. We're looking ahead to Ohio State, and we're on the road without Jim Harbaugh. A lot of people are worried after these two games, but I'm not too worried about the on-field performance. I'm worried about Jim not being there, and I'm worried about the offensive line. I don't think, we've won the offensive line of the year 2 years in a row now, back-to-back Joe Moore award winners. I don't think they win that award this year, and they need to protect JJ, and they need to give some holes, create some big holes for some big explosive run plays to hit. And I think we take care of business. If we were in Columbus, it's a different story. Marvin Harrison Jr., he's going to get his. He's an NFL talent, one of the best wide receivers at Ohio State in a couple decades. And that's saying something because they're basically wide receiver U as of late. But that dude, I tell my wife when we see him, I say, hey, I hate the Buckeyes. Don't hate that guy. I can't hate greatness. And he is due for a lot of greatness in his future. So he's going to get his. But you have to tackle him when you have the opportunity. You can't let him get extra. You can't. And Travion Henderson, too. He's a great running back, and he is at full steam for the first time in almost 2 years. So you can't let them get broken tackles. You can't feed them free opportunities. If you get a turnover in your hands, an interception, you got to come down with it. You can't drop interceptions. That's basically a turnover on your own right. So it's that kind of thing you got to execute in all phases of the game, especially this year without your head coach. You got to be clean. I wanted to take OSU with the points when it was plus 5.5. Hate to say that, but as it creeps lower and lower, I like Michigan money line still. I can't bet against my boys. I was more nervous last year going in the game, and I bet on them, and it paid off. So I'm gonna follow that algorithm one more time and pray to the football gods that we get our third straight.
Well said, brother. Well said. A lot of passion, a lot of fire there with that explanation and that analysis of the team and both teams that we're dealing with here for the game. We have reached the game. It is that time of year, and the stakes could not be higher. It is not a surprise that coming to this point in the season that Michigan has probably their best team that they've ever had going into this game. That's coming from a Michigan State fan. I think they have all the tools. They have veteran athletes on their team where Ohio State has lost some guys. They have put some guys in places where they're not really used to being. Yes, they have an unscathed record, but are they prepared for this game? These young guys, these freshmen, these sophomores, are they ready for this type of game at this magnitude in a very, very hostile environment in the biggest rivalry in college football? That's the question that has to be asked. I would feel good if you're a Michigan fan, but obviously being this the biggest rivalry game in college football, you can't help but feel a little bit nervous. You can't help but have a little bit of butterflies in your stomach going into this weekend because there is always that question mark, and one team has to fall. Both these teams are in the top four. As we mentioned, all the turmoil that we're dealing with the college football playoff and all the movement. There's going to be movement this week regardless. There's no way that there is not movement happening this weekend. That is a fact. That is 100% accurate. So that there's going to be uncertainty there on both sides, and both teams, I'd say, are somewhat wary. They're shaking their boots. There's butterflies. I don't want to say they're nervous, but there is butterflies, no doubt. So looking forward to this one, man. Going to be a hell of a game.
Definitely. We can wrap it up by me just posing this one last question. Say it comes down to the wire. Field goal decides it for either team. So just, could have gone either way. A little bit of other chaos happens on the outside. Is there still room for the loser of the game to sneak in?
That is a great question. I think it comes down to positioning, and that is something that is somewhat subjective. It's based on the committee. It's going to come down to points allowed, I think. I think you got to give Michigan the nod if they take the L. I think you got to keep them in the top four regardless, win or lose. You got to keep them in the top four, keep them in the conversation. Ohio State with a loss, on the other hand. The problem is, and this has always been the case, unfortunately, but Ohio State has somehow reached that echelon of being favored by the CFP. Michigan has always kind of been fighting their way in, regardless of how good of a team or regardless of how good of a season they've had. So I think that it throws up a lot of question marks. Obviously, it eliminates a lot of question marks if Michigan just wins the game. goes on, marches forward into the Big Ten championship. But I think you got to keep either. I almost got to think you got to keep either team in.
Yeah.
But it's a toss up because you got teams that are fighting their way into that 4th spot that you could lose one. So it's going to come down to the CFP the committee making a decision, and they're going to have a big decision, a hard decision to make, regardless of the outcome of this game. So
yeah,
it's a
lots
toss-up.
of stuff to be determined as far as the college football playoff, the game, Washington versus Washington State, and then the Pac-12 title game is going to leave one of those teams in or out. Especially if it's Oregon losing, they'll have 2 losses. They'll be out. If Oregon wins, they make a great case to be in. Georgia, Alabama will have lots of implications. And then Florida State and Louisville. If Louisville beats Florida State in the ACC title game, they'll be sitting at 12-1, as long as they take care of business this weekend against Kentucky. But they're at 10-1 and are going to play in the ACC championship against FSU. So there's chaos to be had over there with Jordan Travis-less Seminoles as well. So I'm just super excited to see how it all shakes out. And I can't be more excited for the holiday weekend, man.
Controversy is in the forecast. I just have to say that controversy is in the forecast. We love it. We're excited for it. We're marching into the inferno with that mentality. And just one more thing about the Michigan game. I advise everybody to go to the GinSportsNetwork.com website and check out Sam Vitale's article on the Michigan Wolverines and their projections. He wrote this article back on June 12th, and it really brings a lot of things into the fold that have played out in Michigan's favor. And especially if they get the dub this weekend, he will be held on a pedestal, and he deserves an award for all the projections that he made, all the analysis that he compiled and put into that article. Did a hell of a job with it. So I'll put that link in the bottom of this podcast in the description for you guys to go check out. June 12th was the article when it was written, before any games were played. So some impressive stuff there. He's a hell of an analyst, hell of a guy, and glad to have him here on the GSN team. It's I got some great guys here on our squad, so we're happy to have him. Good deal. All right, Cody, that brings us to the end of the podcast. Got any final words, final thoughts? I know you already shared a lot. Anything else going into the holiday weekend?
Yeah, just 1 second here.
Oh boy. What do we got coming here?
My Eastern Michigan Eagles have become bowl eligible for the 3rd year straight after securing the dub tonight in Western New York over the Buffalo Bulls. We salvaged the season. Our 6-6. We're going bowling again, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Eagle pride. Let's get her done.
Cody loves those green and white colors. And, even though he's got an E on his head, we love the Eastern Michigan Eagles. We love them, but we love the colors even more. I think we're matching, actually. So that's a great sight to see whenever that can happen. Surprised to not see Cody in the maize and blue today. I mean, I wore neutral colors. I almost had a red shirt on earlier.
Yeah, coming from the guy, I'm pretty sure for this episode last year, he was wearing maize and blue and putting roses at Jim Harbaugh's feet, and this year he's throwing me red X's in the chat. So,
oh boy, that's what I was gonna say. So I was throwing some red X's out there for the M's. Okay, and that's something that Ohio State fans do. I was taking part in the fun. If anyone knows me, I hate Ohio State more than a lot of Michigan fans hate Ohio State. Okay, so let's just make that clear. Let's put that on the record. Take that down for the minutes. That has to be said. But the reason I'm not praising Jim Harbaugh is because he's not on the sidelines. I'm not putting roses at his feet because he's in a hotel room. Yeah. I mean, I would love to. And this is his team. Regardless. But circumstances bring different outcomes.
It is what it is. It is reality for the Michigan Wolverines. So
it is. It sure is. We will look forward to this game coming up this weekend. A lot of good games coming up, and the tide will be shifted. That is a fact. That is a certainty. It's a certainty that there's going to be a lot of changes that happen. The CFP committee has a lot on their plate already going into this finale of the season here in the 2023-24 season, and a lot to look forward to in next season with the 12-team format. So we're very excited for all of that. Cool. So we'll wrap it up there. Make sure to check us out on social media at Gin Sports Network on IG, at Gin College, also on IG. Check us out on our website, ginsportsnetwork.com, for all articles, IG posts, and updates from our team. And be sure to check us here next time on the Gin College podcast. But for now, I'm John J. II here with Cody Almasy. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Be safe. Have a great holiday visiting with friends and family. Eat a lot of turkey and have a great night.